Everybody, my name is Itay from application OWL. Today we have 20 minutes consultation with Aagnya,
Yeah.
a student at Cal State Fullerton at her last year. And we're going to talk about career, and in particular, interesting career in product management. I've been in product management. I'm now in Google for 9.5 years now, and in product management, maybe like 15. So hopefully I would be able to help. So maybe you would like to tell us a bit about yourself and where do you stand and how can I help?
Okay. So I'm doing MBA in business analytics at Cal State Fullerton. And I am a very curious person who's very into, product strategy. I also have background in business development, product strategy, data analysis, and even business analysis. And I've done my undergrad in finance. So navigating from finance to business analytics was a huge step for me at first, but now I'm really finding it very interesting, and it's all a learning process. So I just want to know how to, as someone who's 23 years old and is trying to start their career in, say, product management, how would you navigate your way through such a competitive market given today's job market? And even as an international student, what challenges and how could I overcome it? Or if you have any advice from your personal experience as a teacher since years, as you are a professor at Cal State Fullerton as well, and as someone who's been in this competitive field since you just said 9 years.
Yeah, like 9.5 at Google and maybe 14 or 15 in total. So there is a couple of very good questions here. I'll try to maybe start to address them, then we can have
Yeah.
the conversation in the next 20 or so minutes. The first thing is you've currently at the MBA. I've done my MBA too. I'm a graduate of MIT Sloan. And the MBA is classic for people who are trying to move to product management. A lot of people that do career change in their MBA to product management if they go to the technology space. Now, product management is a bit unique role because people rarely start as product manager. It's not something that people usually start with. There are places where they have like associate PM and maybe you can start with the product management, but usually that's not how people start in product management.
Right.
In general, people start in product management, I would say, there's a bit of generalization, but at least in my career, I've seen people starting from 3 different directions. One direction is engineers. For
Yes.
example, I was an engineer, and at some point, maybe you don't want to write code. Maybe you want to do something a bit more social. So a lot of people move to product management from engineering. So that's one natural way to move. The second way that people become product managers is moving from the client.
Oh.
So let's assume that you are working in healthcare.
Yes.
And you know a lot about healthcare. And now you can go to a healthcare technology company and become a product manager there. Because a large portion of product management is being the voice of the customer.
Yes.
So that's the second thing that is kind of quite common that I saw product managers moving to. There is maybe 2 more roles that sometimes I see. Sometimes I see maybe other roles like program managers or project management that move to product manager at some point. I think the third one is people who deal with user experience. So imagine that you are a product manager working on any number of like web applications. It's very heavy on the user experience.
Yes, totally.
So let's assume that you're product manager for news feeds at Facebook. There is a lot of user experience involved with that. As a result, a lot of people that are good with user experience find themselves moving into product management as well. So people usually don't start with it. Okay. I think I have not answered all your questions, but maybe that's a start.
Yeah, totally. That's a nice way for, I asked you how to navigate and how to leverage our skills to get into product management. So I think this was a start that and you're right. Getting into product management directly would be a lot, because first I think by doing certain roles you need to have more understanding about the product, and then maybe and the company as well wherever you're working, and then maybe we can navigate into product management or say product owner or something like that.
If there is something that you're passionate for and you have experience with, and
Yeah.
you think that you can represent the customers well, I think that is a good place to do product managers. So let's assume that you are very passionate for or very knowledgeable in finance, in crypto. You're like huge in trading crypto. I'm not saying that you are, but let's assume.
Yeah.
Then you could potentially work, maybe not in the most well-branded companies, but you can maybe get a role as somebody who understands the client as a product manager for a company.
Yeah, that's right actually, because I'm really interested in real estate, and if I become real estate and also in hedge fund companies.
Mhm.
So because I have a background in finance, I do understand these things better than as say something in healthcare, right? Or software as a service or something like that.
Yeah. Have you had an internship in product management?
Not exactly product management, but I have done what product managers do. So it was a startup, so I was, doing an all-rounder thing. So it was like, on paper it was business development, but I've done project management, product management, I've done a lot of stuff. And I also had a startup, a real estate startup there. As a co-founder, I was also the growth analyst and the, you
Mhm.
know as a it's an all-in-one thing where that I've done. So not only product management, or not in very depths of it, but yeah, to some extent.
Okay. So in the past, I worked with people that are interested in breaking into product management. Now, breaking into product management, I would say um, it's actually not that difficult versus other roles. So let's compare it to maybe program management. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're a program management, you mean you need to manage a program. It's very difficult as an external intern who's not part of a full-time part of the company to manage the program for the company. And it's not something you can do by yourself. So it's actually very difficult to get experience doing that without full-time employment. That's why there is a lot of like certification program, because it's difficult. Now, it's difficult to get experience. Now, for product management, it's actually pretty easy, because you can always take product management roles that are not that difficult to extract. So let me give you an example that might help. Market research. You can go to any company, make a good impression, say, hey, I can do a market research for you. I can do an analysis of your product versus the competition. I could do a survey of clients that I'm going to reach out to and create a report for you about what they like or do not like with your product. Would you
Yes.
mind sparing a couple of thousands of dollars for me to do it for 2 months? That's basically an internship. So I'm saying that because I help multiple people to get this type of internship. And also, I can tell you that I myself, when I was a student, when I was an MBA student, just like you, I had 3 of those internships.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And it's very easy to make that sell, because it's, you always, people don't like to do market research because it's kind of depressing for them.
Yeah.
Like imagine you're like working on a product and then you find all the ways by which there's so many other products and you're not unique. So it's kind of depressing. So people would always be happy to, not always, but usually would be happy to bring it to somebody else. And there is not a lot of risk because worst case, you haven't done an amazing job, they just throw it away. And another thing is, as a student, you have an advantage because you could reach out to competitors, you
Yes.
could reach out to clients, you can reach out to anybody, which as a person, imagine I work at Google. I mean, it's much more difficult for me to do market research, reaching out maybe to competitors than you reaching out to competitors. Like, I'm not saying that Google will do it, but I'm saying that other companies might be open to figuring out, you using competitors' product and stuff like that. So that's in general a very easy way to get an internship in product management.
Yes, totally. So, thank you for your answers. But in today's job market, like there's so much competition, even in a very niche field. For example, um, a role could be like economy analysis or something like that. I saw something like that recently. So it's a very niche category, right? It's not economy, it's not only analysis, it's economy analysis, something like that.
Mhm.
So product management is such a broad field, so there's so much competition in today's market. So how would someone stand out while applying or interviewing in general?
Sure. So if we're talking, so there are two separate things to talk about. One is an internship, which I mentioned. I think it's relatively easy because you can just take a project, which you cannot do with other roles. Like I mentioned, like program management, you cannot just take a small project.
Yeah.
The second thing is when we're talking about full-time, that's a separate issue. When we're talking about full-time, we need to understand why full-time is difficult. Full-time is difficult because let's compare for a second product management to engineering.
Okay.
Product management, there is way less than engineering, way less number of product managers than engineers.
Yeah.
So in large companies, it might be 1 to 10. So for every 10 engineers, you might have one product manager. Give or take, it's not perfect ratio, but something like that. Lots of groups, in many cases, don't even have a product manager, like internal groups, like DevOps and stuff. They might not even have a product manager. And startups usually do not have product managers
Yes. Yes.
because the product manager is the founder,
Yeah.
right? So even if their title is CTO or a co-founder or an engineer, they are, by the definition of being in the leadership, they manage the product. So only when the company grows to a certain size, there's going to be like a product manager, and sometimes they will come even after product marketing and things like that. So what does it mean? So it's to know that at first there is a pretty strong competition just because the sheer supply of positions.
Yeah.
The second is think about the bar. The bar for product manager is lower than engineering. Anybody could call themselves a product manager and say, hey, I understand the customers, I work on the customers, I worked on this or that startup and I have experience, right? They can come from any educational background. They can come
Yeah.
from
Totally.
Agriculture. I know somebody. It can come from biology. It can come from anything. And the second thing is that it's also very hard to validate.
Yeah.
So engineering, yes, there is today ChatGPT and LeetCode and all of that stuff. But in general, you can kind of do engineering and know kind of who's passing and who's not. Product manager is much more difficult because a lot of it is like how you talk. And you might be amazing in product manager, but it might not carry out when people tell you, oh, tell me about the time where you blah, 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 or how would you design, I don't know, a shower head for the blind or something like that. So you could be a very good product manager, but still it's not going to shine through. So those are the challenges. Now, so how do you overcome those challenges? The best way to overcome the challenges is to get knowledge that is valuable. I think that's the best way, the easiest way. So let's assume that now you want to go and say, I want to be a product manager at, I don't know, Zillow or something.
Okay.
And you're interested in real estate, okay? So then many people apply to product management.
Yeah.
How many of them are actually heavy on real estate domain? Maybe, 10%. A lot of people are just, they will apply, they maybe work in advertising, maybe work on something different. So the key, I think, to break through is a domain expertise. Okay. So I
Right.
work, for example, in ATEX. Many people apply to senior position, but if I go and apply to a company that's ATEC, they give me an advantage, and not because I'm from Google. I mean, maybe it helps, but it's not about that. It's because that's what I've been doing for the last decade. Platform,
Right.
I have an advantage too, because that's what I've been doing in the last 20 years. So this expertise, that's what gives you an edge. So what you do is you collect more and more and more high quality expertise in the domain, and if possible, brands. So brands in product management matters much more than engineering. For example, I went to MIT. People who went to MIT, people who went to Harvard, it might be beneficial for them in product management,
Yes.
but not so much at engineering. Like, I don't think that going to Stanford at engineering, unless you're like, I don't know, like a PhD or something, would make much difference if you go to programming job versus you would go to, I don't know, USC or any other university. I don't think that makes much difference in engineering. I think in product it makes sense. But it's important to, as you're thinking about this, like, think about the brand of the company in that space. So the way to break to product management is you look for, that's my advice, look for hot startup and the domain that you're willing to commit yourself to. Let's say real estate.
Yes.
Okay, hot startup. Those startups do not necessarily have very rigid processes for internship or full-time or something. Go do projects for them. Go do internship, get some experience, do contract work, whatever. In small companies, decisions can be done very easily by the person because it's like the founder usually is like owning the company or something, or a large portion of the company. So they can make decisions. If they make decision, they can give you project work, contract work. You start to be in the game of high quality real estate experience. Then you can leverage it for maybe a blue chip company, because those blue chips company, they are not as advanced.
Yes.
So when they see you, yes, maybe you work less kind of full time in maybe prestige, but you work on the leading edge of this. This is, by the way, a common thing that I tell people. They're like, "Oh, how can I get myself into a brand?" Don't get yourself into a brand that kind of your grandparents know. Get yourself into a brand that the industry knows. So let me ask you, do you know what are the hottest startups in real estate? Let's say you want to do real estate analytics. What are the hottest startups in real estate analytics? Go see where they present, where they are. Target them, talk with people that are there. Try to get a project with them, something, internship, doesn't matter what. You mentioned you're 23. That puts you at a completely different risk than somebody who's 45. Your risk is going down the wrong path. Your risk is not that you're not going to find a job for a year. Your risk is going down the wrong path. Going down the wrong path means, let's say you want to do real estate. You're thinking, wow, real estate is what I want to do, but I cannot find a full-time job there now. And it's kind of difficult because I have to travel and I have to network and I have to do all this work in order to get myself that maybe even part-time job that's not going to be fully paid. I'm just going to go and work at, Cisco is a great company. So let's say I work at Cisco, which is perfectly fine working with Cisco.
Yeah.
But then the problem is that that's not what you want to do. You're already committed to full-time. You go down that path, and you end up with something that you're not like really passionate for and not maybe really good at. And that's, I think, the common mistakes that people do. They kind of panic. They're looking for a full-time, and then they kind of off the road. The other things, I would say, role is extremely difficult to fix. So let's say somebody wants to be an engineer and they become like, I don't know, like project manager. Those things are hard to fix because it's kind of different that you position yourself. And industry is also hard to fix. Like I betted on ad tech a decade. I cannot easily move to healthcare.
Yeah.
So that's my tip. Go find the hot companies that in the field and try to get something from them and use that experience to kind of build yourself.
Yes, totally. Thank you for this advice because I do think, for say, correct me if I'm wrong, but for a technical person like a software developer or something, getting into fan companies is way easier than someone who's had very little experience in, say, management, like product management or any kind of stuff. So I think starting from a small company or a medium level company and getting more experience in the field would really help getting into fan companies one day, or even a very good position in those medium level companies.
The challenge is this: in many cases, when you go to a fan company, and I'm generalizing, but you go for fan, it's an open battlefield because it's very hard for you to create an edge. So then it's much more, it's not that it's hard to get, it's hard to get in, but it's not that it's hard to get in. The real problem is that it's hard to differentiate. Now, this is less of an issue maybe for engineering, but this is a serious issue for product management. Like, how would you differentiate yourself? And the point is that, let's assume you get to a fan company, right? You go to Apple
Okay.
and become Apple product manager for, I don't know, Apple Care.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Protection. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you go from here? Like, okay, you Apple Care. Okay. Is the domain, is that something you actually want to do? Like, you will move to what after that? A director at Best Buy Care? Which again, like, I'm not saying it's negative in general. I actually have friends that work on this and they enjoying themselves. But I think that, if you want to do real estate, just go with that.
Yeah, totally. But it's very my priorities are something that I'm knowledgeable in would be energy, real estate, and again finance. So I think that's what I'll start with, and it would be a good filter for me. So how do you present yourself? You said if you're good at some domain, apply there, use your knowledge there. How do you apply, how do you show that expertise, like in a cover letter, or how do you show that in your resume?
You show focus. So when you say energy, finance, and
Real estate.
real estate, that's not good. It cannot be that. You're committed. Remember, you're a product manager. You have to be committed to actually care about something, especially when you're like don't have a lot of experience. I can maybe pass by caring about, I don't know, 2 things. But I think for you, since you don't have a lot of experience, you want to be as focused as possible. And besides, think about it this way. It's going to be much easier for you there is something that's called a job cluster. Cluster means similar jobs. Trying to tackle a single cluster. Don't try and tackle multiple clusters at the same time. Because when you network, it's not going to help you networking like in health, like in finance, networking into, I don't know, energy, or energy into real estate. Those are two different. So if you go, let's say now when you go to a networking event and you're meeting somebody and they're from real estate, they're unlikely to tell you useful information about energy.
Yeah,
So
right.
what happens is that you're spreading yourself thin and you get nothing. Why? In today's market, you need to assume that if you compete for a good role, I'm not talking internship, I'm talking full-time, like those that they actually publish it Indeed or something. You need to assume that you compete with about 600 other people. That's just assumption. So if you're not in the top 1%, 2%, you're just not there. So you're not going to get an interview. So the point is, 3% or something. So the point is that you have to be focused. You have to get yourself into the top percentage, and you're not going to get this with spreading yourself over 3 different clusters. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. We're out of time, but I hope that that was useful.
Yeah, totally. It was very useful because talking to someone who has this amount of experience and you taking your time out to, guide us, it means a lot.
Yes, and yeah, you're welcome to continue follow and send me if you have some good questions. And there is also like free resources online, like resume critique. There's also paid like resume rewrite. And good luck with your job search. It's very exciting.